Hey everyone, welcome back to Trailblazers, the series that showcases the bold HR, talent, and L&D leaders who are shaping the future of work with action, not just ideas. Brought to you by our friends at Valence, this is where AI meets real-world results, from organizational transformation to workforce empowerment. In each episode, we sit down with the pioneers turning AI theory into practice. And today's Trailblazer is a powerful example of just that. Today I'm joined by Chris Harry, who's the Chief Talent and Learning Officer at TEKsystems, a global business and technology services company who helps clients achieve their business transformation and customer experience goals, with over 25,000 employees and 100,000 consultants worldwide. Under his leadership, development time has been cut in half, retention improved by 30%, and first-year sales performance boosted by over 20%. In our conversation, Chris shares how AI and talent innovation can scale learning, empower employees, and strengthen workplace connections. Hey Nadia, what's one question I can ask to explore the human side of AI, not just the technology?
Chris, how about this for a question? As organizations increasingly adopt AI, what do you see as the most profound ways it's reshaping the human experience at work, both positively and in terms of the challenges it creates? This question works well because it invites your guests to go beyond technical details and share real stories about how AI is changing people's lives at work. It opens the door for personal insights, cultural shifts, and practical examples, making the conversation both relatable and actionable for your audience.
Thanks so much, Nadia. I'll keep that in mind. Let's jump into the episode. Chris, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Looking forward to our conversation.
Two Chris's talking about AI. What can go wrong?
Or what could go right?
Let's do that. What can go right? Do you prefer Christopher or Chris?
Chris is great.
Yeah. Are you like me that normally when you only hear Christopher is because you're in trouble? I don't know if like your parents were the same. Like if I heard a full Christopher, I knew I'm in trouble.
It was always coming from mom. For
yes.
Sure. 100%. Never from dad.
Yeah.
Just mom.
Christopher. I'm like, oh no, something's wrong right now as well. But so good to meet you. Before we jump in, tell everyone a little bit about your background personally and your journey to where we are now.
Yeah, glad to. So 30 years in adult education. I started off as a secondary education teacher in college as a GA and taught kinesiology and a bunch of different things at the university level, and moved quickly into the corporate world and had an opportunity to get into a job that was a little bit of sales and a little bit of HR, but we were in a very similar business that I find myself in now, putting people to work in a staffing office very, very early in my career, but got the opportunity to build the national training program. And that was one of the very first times that I would tell you the light bulb went off for me for something that I really, really found a lot of passion in and for. So fast forward 25 years here with the Allegis Group and TEKsystems as the operating company and the parent company. And my opportunity every day is to come in and lead all of our talent and learning and development and OD work across the globe for 6 brands that we have. I get to advise 5 of the brands, and I'm responsible for one specifically, TEKsystems. But it's great work. I don't consider myself coming to work every day. It's an opportunity, and it's a privilege for me.
Incredible. Can I just ask quickly, where did that transition go from education into the corporate world?
Yeah, so that was almost 30 years ago. I spent 4 years teaching. And from there, I actually had a referral into this company who a friend of mine from college worked at this staffing organization. They said, hey, you teach, and why don't you come over and try out this staffing world back in the day. And this was the early 90s. And I did that. And then, like I said, got an opportunity to do a bunch of different things in that company and ended up running 7 different offices and built this training program, which was a really cool experience.
Yeah. What's one thing that you think the most important thing that you brought over from your experience in education that helped you in the work that you do now?
Well, when you're teaching young adults and you're a young adult, I think the most important thing that I learned in that environment was probably how to deal with a lot of different people. The university I was at had a really strong student base, very broad, very diverse, and it gave me a ton of ability to work with a lot of humans that I didn't grow up with.
Ah,
and brought a lot of that forward. And I think even to this day, really having an opportunity to work with a lot of different people, I think is the best way to get to great decision making and solutions. So I would say that's one thing. The other thing was I had a fantastic mentor back in that day. This gentleman, Dr. Ned Britt, he taught me a lot about life, and he taught me a lot about building complete experiences for people that they learn well through. So I
yeah.
would say those are probably the two biggest things.
So can you kind of walk us through where did your AI journey start?
Sure. Personally, I would say it probably started like a lot of people with a computer and a phone and a couple of different tools, like GPT, Claude, whatever those were 3, 4 years ago, probably about 36 months, and just trying to dig into that and understand like what is the opportunity there. But from the company perspective, I would tell you that we spent a very important amount of time thinking about governance and ethics and how we were going to use tools like this. And now where we've gotten to is, there's this idea of things that we will embed in all of our technologies and our processes that will make us better at what we do. And then there's the other side of it where we give you tools that you can work with to be better yourself and actually find spaces that really are just very self-motivated areas of using those tools every day to make you better. So it's kind of a dual thing. You're either a benefactor of what the company's doing from the perspective of embedding AI. We're probably a good 175 different types of things plugged into our systems this far. And then we have Copilot, and we have a bunch of other things embedded, and we have leadership coaches and things like that people are using now every day that are really enhancing the ability for people to lead and be productive in their roles.
Yeah. It's been when you just said, by the way, 3, 4 years. I'm like, has it been that long? Like
Yeah,
speed has just been like,
it is.
it's
It
crazy.
is. It is.
I,
And it
I,
just seems to continue to get better and better.
yeah, I know. Could you share some examples that really that you're excited about in terms of where you're putting AI into the hands of your employees?
I would give you two direct ones. We as I said, that idea of being a benefactor of things that the company builds into our systems. One of them is this ability for our delivery teams to find the right people to put to work on particular projects, and we have some technology that we embedded in there. And ultimately, what that does is it makes sure that our searching and discovery of who those people should be, who matches jobs really well, who's done those kinds of works, who has been in those kind of customers, that system actually kind of shapes up that for our delivery crew. So you ultimately get to spend more time talking to those people to have them want to work on the work that we have available in those projects. So that is just one piece of technology. The other one is that we've given our leaders a leadership coach. It's an AI coach that has been developed over, I guess, probably 35 plus years by a very strong partner in the field that we've been working with for 20 years. And we put that in place almost a year ago. And that really has proven to be almost this executive coach in your pocket. Type, prompt, do whatever you need to do in there. You can throw all kinds of scenarios in there, all different types of things that ultimately make conversations better, make planning better, make all sorts of things, build training types of opportunities out of it. It is a really broad-based tool, and we have seen such success there in our HR and our performance processes and all those kind of things and our talent processes that I would tell you would have taken a ton more time and a ton more action of human to human before we had those opportunities. So there's definitely two sides to it, but I would say those are just two that stick out right now
Yeah.
in the last 12 months.
I love I mean, they're both great examples. Could you elaborate a little bit on the first one? So is that basically an internal talent marketplace that you've
Well,
basically
so
built?
in our systems, we are a connected and Salesforce company, and ultimately what happens there is embedded in that technology
Okay.
are AI pieces of technology that we have built
Oh,
in-house.
in-house. Okay,
Actually,
cool.
yeah, we built some things in-house and plugged them in, and now we're getting into all the different kinds of bots and agents that come from the native tool. But we put this technology in place. This was something that came from way back in the day when you think about Boolean logic of
Yeah.
searching.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, you think about that world has come this far where now these different tools that can be plugged in different places, you can, like I said, you can build them in-house or you can bring them in as part of the native structures. That is actually taking place of all of that work that someone had to do to search and find candidates and put people to work in different jobs and requirements that are part of large IT services projects globally. That's all done for them now. So when they come in the morning, they've got this environment where they know exactly who to contact, who to talk to, and actually can make those conversations very personal and very meaningful to skills, goals, and interests of what they're trying to do.
Hmm.
And that is something that we didn't have yet. You had to actually do all of that work at the desk.
Yeah.
Just 3, 4 years ago.
What's been the impact for that? Because obviously, I'm immediately whilst you're talking, I'm thinking retention. I'm thinking redeploying skills and talent
Oh yeah,
across the business.
yeah.
What's some of the big metrics that you're looking at that you're measuring?
Well, I think just what you just said, redeployment, rehire is probably one of the biggest things that we look at, where you have someone on a project, that project may be a 6 month, 12 month, 18 month project, or even longer, and they're finishing that work up. We want to make sure that those people stay because the number one thing is staying gainfully employed. Like that is what people want to do, and our consultants globally want that. They also want to, be upskilled. They also want to be put onto new and bigger and better projects. So how do we use these tools to actually continue to have rosters of folks that can go right back to work? And I think that's one of the main things. The other thing is just the ability for our delivery resources and our sales resources to actually communicate about whether who the company is, what work we're doing, how we need to solution for that, who do we need. So is it a talent marketplace? 100%. It's a talent marketplace. It's a skills marketplace.
Skills marketplace.
And these technologies are shaping how we can spend more time as humans talking to our customers, whether they be on the sales side or the consultant side, and making those conversations that much richer.
And I think that's a really a game changer for specifically your business model as well, when you've got, I think, believe, 80,000 plus consultants worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
and actually, at Allegis Group, it's well over 100. So yes.
oh, exactly. So the
Yeah.
ability to be able to have a platform that can surface those insights and match skills and jobs and roles to the work is a
Hmm.
game changer. To do that at scale.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we have very similar systems internally, that we have a talent marketplace internally for all of our roles internally,
Yeah.
where we look at our talent, we look at aspiration, we look at skills, we look at all sorts of things, career trajectories, all those kind of things for people that come in and they spend 10, 20 years here. And how do we retain? How do we engage? That same care level that we want with our customer and our consultants is equally important, maybe more important
Yeah.
internally, because it is imperative that we keep people here and we keep them happy and have a good culture for them.
Yeah. So I was confused because the first time you mentioned it, I thought you was talking about it from an internal perspective, but you're talking it from an external
So that's
perspective.
external. The beginning examples are external. This
Incredible.
last
Now you're
piece here
bringing
is
it in.
internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have to match each other, right? Like, because
Yeah.
it's as well. So that's how do you, one of the challenges I see companies facing is how do you then connect your internal skills talent marketplace to development? Right? Are you connecting that to your LMS? Are you bringing in content in there? Because it's all well and good having that, but then of course you need the half-life of skills and developing people to prepare them for that role that they may go into. What does that flow look like?
Yeah, and I think you have to think about which part of the organization you're looking at, because that's really important. Is the skills taxonomy and libraries and
Yeah.
things like that are attached to the IT consultant type roles that we have, are a much riper environment for one-to-one skills. When you come internally and you think about corporate, you think about sales, and you think about delivery, those skills start to take a little bit different look. They start to take the look of behavior and success statements as part of success profiles. And we use a success profiling system that then leads into a talent system to two pieces of learning technology. All of that comes together into one environment that we literally have what we call a baseball card, but it is a talent profile that covers performance, aspiration, reviews and scoring, skills, certifications, everything. It's for all of our folks globally. We have well over 200 data points per person
Wow.
globally that actually then can be reviewed. All of our reviews happen yearly across all of our functional groups. So we know at any moment in time, we can basically click a link and get a view of any
Yeah.
part of our organization.
Yeah.
So pretty simple.
Oh, congrats. And then obviously it's a journey, right? There's no destination.
Yeah.
This is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
This all sounds amazing, but what's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome?
Well, I think if I were to say on the AI side of things, one thing you already just mentioned it is that every single tool that you own now has AI embedded in it.
Yeah.
And I think that that is problematic in and of the just because there is so much of it. And I'm a firm believer you don't AI just for the sake of AIing in any way, shape, or form. You need to be very selective, and the things that you do put in place, you have to be methodical. And I think you have to build. That's the thing. Is like you just don't dump this in. It is small steps. And I think that's probably the one thing that we learned very quickly is that when you go about implementing going back to that benefactor side, you can put things into our technologies that just show up for people. That's fine. They'll learn how to use those and we'll do some work there. But when you give them other tools that requires them to be really interactive with them and actually engage themselves, you have to be highly intentional of how do you use it, where do you use it, and then give very specific examples in the workplace where you can change how you do things using a specific tool. And I think that's something that we learned where we rolled licenses out to Copilot is an example. A lot of Copilot licenses. And until we learned after the first 100 days that we needed to be way more directed in the actual functions and what people can really get good at with and really create efficiencies with, the idea of just showing them what the tool does wasn't enough. So not that it was a big hurdle, but it was certainly a learning, that's for sure. That's where I would start, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we're still at the early stages, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all rolls out. But everyone's sort of fighting, especially in the enterprise space, for sort of agent dominance, right? You know, you've got ServiceNow trying to be the main agent. You've got Copilot. You've got ChatGPT Enterprise. You've got Workday. You've got everyone, right, saying, "Hey, use ours," right? As your main point. And then you're like, well, every single one of these pieces of technology has one, right? But from a employee experience or customer experience, you need one that connects to all of those, right? So you've chosen Copilot, is that right? By the sounds
we
of
have
it?
Copilot through the Microsoft Suite, and then we have the Copilot web-based version as well in-house, and then we have a ton of different bots and agents and things that we're putting in place from some of our vendors that are embedded in things like Degreed.
Okay, but is the goal to integrate them and unify them into one? I know it's difficult because I know you can't always do that.
I would tell you. Here's what I would tell you. Specifically, I'll give you an example. In our sales world, we are diligently looking at how we create the environment for our sellers that is as minimalistic as can be with the amount of tools and things like that, but yet it enables them to do the job highly effectively. And I think that is a big thing to say. But we are working diligently with a couple of different tools with Salesforce Seismic and some other things where we're looking at all of these different capabilities. Gong is another tool that we have.
Yeah, Gong's great.
And how do you start to mix? Because when you look at them,
yeah,
they're all kind of similar, but then there's something to it that you'd say, I don't know about that. It's actually a little different. So where does it make most sense? And an interesting thing that we were just talking to one of the vendors is like, okay, well, you have text and voice. Well, have you studied the idea of someone texting through a prompt that is actually a voice skill? And what's the difference psychologically, and how does your brain function differently when you're typing it? What does that do? How does it commit things to memory versus hearing yourself work through an audio prompt with a person going back and forth, and you've enabled this bot to be a particular kind of customer? And how does learning go from that perspective? And what does that work like? And it's really, really interesting to see how the different tools bring these things to table and where does it really matter. So that's one of the things that I would just say, just on the sales side. And we have examples like that just about in every environment, operations world, our support world, like it's a lot to think about. So, but it's highly interesting.
It's a fun. I mean, listen. If everything aside, it's a fun time, right? I mean, it's an incredible time, an opportunity we have ahead of us. There's a lot of work to do. I think the concern, like you just said, is like how do we unify that into an experience where like I think I saw something the other day, like the average employee has like 20 plus apps that they have to that they have in their workplace, which is crazy. Because you're pulling me over here for my my learning from Degreed. You're pulling me over here to do some LinkedIn learning. You've got my Slack, Teams, email, phone. Like there's just a lot. It's like it's like
Yeah.
an overload
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
and that sales thing that I was just describing is one of the things that I talk with one of our enablement leaders with is how do we create the cockpit? If you were a fighter jet pilot, if you walk out onto the tarmac, your crew has the planes ready to go, and you climb up in that plane and you fire up the engines, and your dashboard comes up, and if you got to fly through the clouds, what are all those tools that you have? And when you think about a fighter jet, it's got a point. Every piece of it has a very high meaning, and we joke about that. Is like, how do we create this cockpit? And it's looking at all of these technologies and saying, okay, well, if you can embed all of these pieces into, let's just say, the opportunity cycle for sales.
Uh-huh.
Well, how do I do that? And can I pull a Gong piece into the opportunity part of prospecting? Can I do that? So I can listen to calls and I can get brushed up on something before I have another call with someone. Can I actually take a 7-minute video that talks about something in healthcare that's meaningful to the next conversation I have? And maybe that's part of the interest phase of the cycle. Really, how do you mix those things and how do you use them so methodically that you don't overwhelm the person sitting in the cockpit, right? Like, you got to keep it good. And
Yeah.
what's interesting about that is that all along the journey, whether it's a new salesperson to a mid-level set to the next level, all the way to our most senior solution sellers who are in highly complex, multi-month, long-term cycles, how do you mix these tools for them in different ways? And I would say we've done some really cool things. And I tell you, we are heavy, heavy learning right
Yeah,
now.
everyone's deep in it right now. But I feel like
Yeah.
the great thing is it's giving us an opportunity to take a step back and reimagine all of our processes. And like, for example, now I'm sure you and the team have had to start from scratch and completely map the entire sales cycle and understanding where some of these technologies may show up, right? And how they show up and where they show up, whether it's in Slack and Teams, in
Yeah.
in Copilot.
Yeah. We rolled out our what we call our end-to-end sales process over a year ago. And actually we have this architectural document, if you will, and it is literally customer behavior, seller behavior,
Yeah.
leader behavior, skills, process architecture, how you go about it. We have rubrics at every level of what moves business to what, the key action points, the different targets and metrics that have to be attained to move from one to the other, all the badging and credentialing that sits at each level that is done through Credly and Degreed. We have all of that in this monster document, and now we're going back and adding to it for all these AI components.
Yeah.
Where do they fit? How do they align with a lens of do not overwhelm them?
Yeah, I love that. But
So,
you've done the hard job of mapping that out. Most companies are deploying these tools without really understanding that piece of where and how does it show up that's going to help that individual in the flow of their work, right? How do we make sure this shows up in the flow of work before their sales call, right? Or
yeah,
that it's listening into the call and straight after it gives them some feedback for the next call, right? Like where and how does it show up? And does it have the context of the individual, the product, the customer, so that it's great they can give you answers, but is it giving you answers within the context of the individual
yeah.
and the business and the customer?
Yeah, some of these tools now are becoming the back end, the development part of when you think about an agent or a bot that can be designed as a particular buyer persona or customer persona or whatever it may be. The amount of information that you can feed into them, you can make them incredibly intimate to the environment you're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
And I mean, right down to the fact of the complexity of how you want them questioning the person that you're talking to in the company. It's like, it can be a real cool, this level of brilliance is amazing. But like I said, you have to really, really be careful because you can't put them everywhere. You can't have people doing 100 bots or 100 role plays or whatever, in a matter of weeks. We got to be really, really careful with that. And how do they mix in appropriately, and where do they become practice and core skill building and essential, upskilling? And then where do you use them for actions that are happening just in the moment? And it's like you keep using the term in the flow of work. And if you think about the last 5 years, we really are now getting tools that allow us to be in the flow of work. We've been saying
Yes, sure.
We have been saying in the flow of work
for a long time,
for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it was a joke. We didn't have the things that allowed us to be in the flow.
No.
It was a weird kind of phrase, and we love acronyms and words for our industry. It's cool. But now we actually have technologies that are actually embedded in the flow that designed appropriately at the appropriate time can be amazingly helpful for both sides of that, in action and in learning.
Yeah. What does this mean for what for years we've had I like to call it the one size fits none model in learning, right? And I don't want to pick on anyone right now, but all of the off the shelf content libraries that we all bring into our LMS, you already know who I'm talking to, talking about. But now we can, like you said, with the technology, we can create hyper personalized, dynamic content with the context of the organization, the individual, building it via voice, via text, via podcast, 150 languages transcribed. What does that mean for that entire market of, off-the-shelf courses that we all currently use and bring into our LMS, for example?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. With such a large IT consultant population and just in general across all of our brands, there is the need for continuous upskilling and access to content. However, what I would say is coming that I think is really important, and we have it in both of the vendors that we do use, and we are partners with them. And I would tell you that the environments they're creating have this ability, these AI curation elements that, given very specific dynamics, you can create highly meaningful, very quick hit things that it was almost impossible to do before. It would have been a custom project. It would have been something else. And I think then when you take that ability with a skills or taxonomy mapping that is tagged appropriately,
yeah,
and then you're in a system that can be linked directly, like from Degreed into Salesforce, into Seismic, and you put plans together, either by skill and or role and or function, the mix of all of that is where I think they can really make some true hay in the market of using those kind of curation abilities. Now, the other side of things that we got to remember is that a lot of them don't own the content. They're curators.
Yes.
Like some of those instructors are not always
they
there,
license
right?
it. Yeah, they license it. Yeah.
Right. So some of that does come into play. But I think the mix of all of that, and I think the other thing that is really, really important is, back in the day, OD, enablement, and learning, and HR could kind of all do their own thing.
Mm.
They were all kind of this 4 departments. Not anymore. It's over. Like, it is such a fine woven blanket of coverage for the company. Like, there's literally, we have a strategic implementation office, and the teams that I have are in 27 or 30 initiatives right now. You cannot do things, without the interdependencies of these other teams, and we've gotten really good at doing that from a project perspective. So back to those vendors. If they can curate and you can do things through AI that actually attach it to the pieces you have, I call it drafting in. If they can draft into what you're doing and they can feed it right into what your flow is, I think they got something.
What many companies and leaders listening are just getting started on their journey, and what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so if you're just getting started, I think first and foremost, what are your boundaries? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? What governance do you need? Where do you stand from the perspective of using these kind of technologies? And then I think the other side of things is will you use native tools, agents, and things like that from the tools that you own? Will you build internally to put things in that are highly meaningful for your environment is another kind of question. But then I think when you go to your employees, I think you have got to have an enablement mindset. What are you doing to take specific pieces that are going to make them better in their job, making it very clear what it is today, how it can function in the future, and showing them that journey and letting them know how to get to the end result very clearly. And that's some of the stuff we missed in the beginning. We rolled licenses out and we just were like, hey, here's how you use the tool. Let's see what you do.
Good luck.
So great. It's like, did we? But what's funny about that is it's 20, 60, 20. 20% of them ran off and did amazing things. 60 was kind of all over the place, and 20% didn't touch it at all. And I think that's the norm. Like, that is just, and then especially something like this where there's maybe a little fear, maybe a little skepticism. How does it work? What's it going to do? And all the narrative around it's going to take jobs and all that. I
Yeah.
think what we've seen is so far, it's enhancing people's ability to do more in the job they're in and actually do the parts of the job that are actually more fun. Like
Yes.
working with people, having conversations, connecting with customers, doing those kinds of things, and they're spending less time in some places in the tools.
Yeah.
And I think we win if we get to that, we get there. So I think that's what I would just say. Those three things. Like you got to be clear with your people and ride with them.
Yeah.
So
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Like, I wish we could talk longer. And all I'd say is, honestly, congratulations so far for you and the team of what you've created. I know you're,
thank you.
and also congratulations for what's next, right? And good luck because
Yeah,
you're just
no
getting,
doubt,
you
no
just,
doubt.
none of us know where this is going.
Yeah, no
anyone
doubt.
who says they do, give me a call. I want to know.
Great meeting you.
And also just want to say, like, for some, I know we just met, but I truly feel like just from speaking to you that this is your purpose. Like from where you start, from
love it. Yeah,
I can tell the energy, the excitement from when you mentioned from in education to where you are now, and the opportunity that you have to impact, hundreds of thousands of consultants and customers and employees that you serve. So I'm really happy for you, and I'm happy that they've got someone like yourself leading the way as well.
Great. Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you. I appreciate the time. I love the conversation. It's great.
Thanks a lot.